in fact, you don't have a split sheet and you register that song and the money's rolling in, and one person who disagrees with what the splits are because they didn't sign the split sheet, they can shut down your royalties. And you know what? The company will tell you, whether it's ASCAP or whether it's Spotify, any of them, they'll say, we're a third party, we don't get involved, go to court. So you're protecting yourself, but you're protecting them also. And they need to understand that, because they may also be people who don't understand the business, right? So you got to tell them, without a split sheet, we may not be able to get our royalties. I'm trying to protect everybody here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Again, all the music that's being played is from members of the 247 community, 24/7 community. So make sure you tap into that. I dropped the link into the chat. If you're just joining us, we have Deb, who is going to school y'all. And again, you don't get this opportunity often to ask questions. So get them ready and ask as many questions as you can. And then I'm going to turn the floor over to you if you got something to say. Or you want to say anything?
Just hello, and thank you, Deb, for this. Attorneys are not cheap. And so any attorney that's down to come and give time to a community, I always want to applaud. And Deb is the truth. So please do not be shy. All ask your questions, especially the legal questions that y'all ask me that I have to preface with, I'm not a lawyer, but this is the time to ask those questions. So thank you again, Deb.
All right. So I guess I'll just kick it off, right, with some basic topics, only to maybe get you guys thinking and motivated to ask, because really you can ask me anything. If it's a specific detail, maybe I can't really go through that because it's pertaining to you specifically, and maybe I need more information. But if that's the case, I'll just let you know, and everybody can take my email and we can chat, afterwards. But I guess I'm just going to start with really simple foundational elements that you need to know. Like, I guess you guys can let me know because I can't see everybody. Maybe by a show of hands, you can tell me, based on how many people are here and how many people raise their hands, how many people go into the studio and come out with a split sheet when the song is done. So I'm going to tell you that the split sheet is like a foundational piece of your music business, right? Because you are all artists and you're creatives, but your music is your business. If you're doing this as a hobby, it's cool, because, people have expensive hobbies like golfing or boating or skiing or collecting sneakers, right? So there's a lot of expensive hobbies, and music is expensive. Make no mistake about that. So if it's your hobby and you're just doing it to satisfy yourself, that's cool. But if you want to quit your 9 to 5, if you want to have commercial success, then you have to treat this like a business, right? And in order to run a business, you need to know something about businesses. And you can't just go into the studio and be creative, because you are the CEO of your company, right? Your music business. So you need to understand certain principles, and then you can put people around you to execute them, but you actually have to understand them. Otherwise, you're not going to have the people around you to execute them. So I'll just start by saying that a split sheet is a foundational piece in the music business, meaning when your song is done, whether it's just you and a producer, or it's you, 2 producers, or you and you wrote the melody and somebody else wrote the lyrics, you need to get a signed split sheet before you put the music out. And the split sheet will determine what's your percentage of ownership on the publishing side, right? So I know that music business can be very complicated, so I'll try to keep it simple and say that all the money that you collect flows from your copyrights. Period. End of story. All the royalties, let me say it correctly, all the royalties flow from the copyrights, because obviously you can make money merchandise, touring, sponsorship, brand partners, all this other good stuff, right? but copyrights is the thing that most people could care less about, and they don't really take the time to understand, but that's where all the royalties come from. So when you have a split sheet, and I guess maybe I can send one to you, and he can send it out to everybody to use, which is a great split sheet. You have on there your name and who your PRO is. And what's a PRO? It's a performing rights organization. So it could be BMI, CSAC, or ASCAP, just for general, 3 of the most popular in the States. There are a few more, but those are the 3 that are most popular, except that you have to be invited to CSAC. You can't just join. So when you fill out this split sheet, at the end of the day, when the song is done, you're going to say, okay, to the producer, well, you should have this conversation before you go in the studio, actually, is, okay, what's your percentage of the song? Usually the producers want 50%, right? That's usually what they want. And then whoever's on the other side, whether it be you wrote the melody and the lyrics, you came up with the rhyme, the rap, fine, then it's 50-50. But if there's a few people involved, co-producers, maybe the engineer put a twist on it and he wants a piece of it, these things are all negotiable because nothing's set in stone. Sometimes you get a feature, the feature gets something. Some people say the hook is worth more. So if you wrote the hook, you should get a bigger percentage than the person who wrote the verses. But everything is negotiable. So it's really a meeting of the minds. That's what contracts are, a meeting of the minds, and they're reduced to a paper. So you have this split sheet and you fill it out. And why would you want to do that? Oh, I don't want to kill the vibe, blah, blah, blah. I've heard it all. Well, if you want to run a business, you have to have the split sheets filled out, because if the song is a great success and it goes viral, and you're very lucky if that happens, right? Everybody's going to claim that they did more than they really did because they're going to want a bigger piece of the pie, because in fact, that is in part how the royalties are being doled out. So simply stating, in a song, it's broken into 2 parts. So there's the PA copyright, which is the publishing or the writers, right? So who are the writers? The person who makes the music, the person who comes up with the melody, and the person who does the lyrics. They're all called writers. So you have at least 3 people. Could be one person could produce, write the music and the melody, but in most instances, you have at least 2 people on that side. And then you have the master copyright, which is, in this instance, usually the record label owns the master copyright, or if you are an individual and you buy a beat from somebody, you should have paperwork saying that you own the master copyright. Okay, if you just get in the studio with a friend who's a producer and you write the melody and the lyrics, then you might, in fact, both own the copyright to the master. If you paid for the studio time and they didn't, then maybe you own the master. But the reason this is all important is because the way you put it into the system and the way you put it into the PROs and into Sound Exchange and into MLC, and you can ask me what that is if you don't know, this is how they pay you your royalties. And it's based on what the percentages are on the split sheet and who owns the master copyright. And that's why you hear people talking about it. Now, when labels are putting money behind you, they have to own the master copyright, because why would they put money if they have no way to get it back, right? So I know people say, oh, you shouldn't give away your copyrights. No, you have to make educated decisions. You have to understand what you're giving away and why you're giving it away. But if you want a record label to come in, whether it's an independent record label or a major independent label or a major, they're going to own your copyrights. Trust and believe that, and maybe even part of your publishing. So I say all that to say that these are like the fundamentals. And I'm a shameless plug, right? I have a book. It's called For the Record. It's on my website, which is emusicentertainment.net. And I talk about all these things in there, that and plenty more, because the book is set up as an instruction manual. It takes you from how do you put your social media together to what are you doing with the music production and when are you infringing on somebody else's rights, to figuring out what's the right time to go to radio, to When should you be going to different conferences and what would you gain by that? So it kind of has like a progression in there with checklists to make sure that you're doing the things you need to do at each juncture in order to release your music the correct way and get the biggest bang. And I'm sure that Udo is also teaching you some of these steps along the way. This is an instruction manual I created a while ago because I began to realize that independent artists are very creative, and they usually, somebody tells them, oh, you're great. You know, maybe they're singing in the schoolyard, or maybe they wound up in the studio and somebody said, wow, you're fire on the mic. And they get into music, but they don't figure out the education piece. And they go to the school of hard knocks, right? And they get burnt out, and then they leave the music business. Or they spend a lot of money, learn the hard way, instead of like finding somebody like you do, or picking up an instruction manual and figuring out how to navigate. And I would guess that because you joined as members with you do, that you really do want to understand the business. So kudos to you, because you're probably at least 10 legions in front of a lot of people out there who aren't even doing that. So with that said, I will open the floor. You guys can ask me basically anything. If I have the answer, I'll give it to you.
Thank you for that. So the first question we have is, what's MLC?
Okay, that's the Mechanical Licensing Collective. This is an agency that was created by law, I think about maybe 3 years ago, and it took them 2 years to figure out how to get it organized and operating. So when you put a song out, okay, so I'm going to try to be simplistic so that you guys can follow me. And if I'm going too fast, just slow me down. So remember what I said. There's the PA copyright, which is called the Performing Arts Copyright. And that's for the people who are writers, right? The producer who wrote the melody and who wrote the lyrics. Those three parts. They all should have some ownership in the PA copyright. The person who pays to get the music done owns the master copyright. If you are a writer, then when the music goes out, it should be registered with the MLC, because there is a thing called a mechanical license. So when somebody reproduces your music, whether that's in a physical manufacturing, like a CD, a vinyl record or whatever, then there's a statutory amount that they have to pay in royalties. It was 9.1 cents. So for every vinyl record that went out, the record company had to pay 9.1 cent. And that 9.1 cent got divided between the writers, which could be 2 or 3 people. It could be 7 people. It doesn't matter. That's what got divided among them. So when records were selling multi-million records, that adds up to a nice piece of change. Now with streaming, even though they're not producing something physical, it's still a reproduction of your intellectual property, right? You came up creatively with this music, melody, and lyrics, so they have to pay you. And part of what they have to pay you is a mechanical royalty. And the MLC collects the royalties like from Spotify and Amazon and all those places, and then they pay them out to the people who own the PA copyright. But if you don't register your song there, they don't know it's yours. So you're not going to get paid. So everybody who has songs out, if you belong to, let's say, Song Trust or one of those admin publishing companies, they do it for you. But if you don't, you should go sign up at the MLC. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. And you should have them start paying you your royalties. And on the master copyright side, if you haven't signed up with Sound Exchange, that's also free. You need to sign up with Sound Exchange, because if you're the master copyright owner or the performer on the record, Sound Exchange again collects these monies from these companies and then pays you. But they're not going to pay you if you don't register the song, because they have no idea. There's 80,000 songs being uploaded every single day to Spotify. So if you're not taking care of your intellectual property and registering it, there's no way for them to figure out that it's yours, nor are they going to pay you. And after a certain amount of time, it goes into what they call the black box and it gets redistributed to people who have, well, that's for the like BMI and ASCAP. They redistributed that money to the most popular music. So it's not the rich keep getting richer. What can I say? Right? So did that, I know that was a long answer for that simple question, but hopefully that was helpful.
And that was good. We've got questions rolling in. I'll keep running, and Kalia has her hand up, so I'll bring them up too. But Chase says, without an ISRC code or a song uploaded, how does a PRO decide which recording is the actual master of the song that you register?
Okay, so the master, okay, let me go back. There could be, so let me say it differently. Like, let me try to give you an example. White Christmas. Everybody knows that song, I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas, right? Okay, so the people who wrote that song own the PA copyright, right? Many, many people have redone that song over the years. So let's say Bing Crosby was the first one who did it. Let's say some record label paid for Bing Crosby to do it. They own that master. Then along comes, let's say, Mariah Carey, and she wants to redo this Christmas song. She gets permission to do it. She redoes the Christmas song. She owns that master copy. So there can be only one owner in the PA, which is the writers, but there can be multiple masters. So if you own a master, it's your job to register that master with BMI or ASCAP, Sound Exchange, and the MLC. It's your responsibility, or your managers, or you can pay somebody to do that for you. There are people who actually just register songs for people. So there could be multiple masters. I know you said, how do they know which master? No, there could be multiple masters. And you, if you do a remix, you can own the rights to the remix and the original, and they're both your masters, so you need to register both of them.
Yeah, and it's funny, Davina and I were just talking about this yesterday. I used I Want to Hold Your Hand, the Beatles record, as the example, because we picked up a random record in our bin, and the band that redid it in the, I think, late 70s or 80s, on the back of the album, it said, I Want to Hold Your Hand. And then in parentheses, which represents the writers, was John Lennon and Paul McCartney. So I was explaining that to Davina to show that I Want to Hold Your Hand is the song. The Beatles originally did it, but John Lennon and Paul McCartney, the songwriters, are credited as the writers. That said, when you search I Want to Hold Your Hand on Spotify, there's literally hundreds of that versions of that song, which means there's hundreds of masters. But when you go to license it for TV and film, if I want the original, I got to go clear it with whoever owns the Beatles masters. But if I want somebody in 24/7 Artists to redo their version of it and use that in my film, then I'm creating a new master with the artist in 24/7 Artists. And then I have to go clear the publishing from whoever is representing John Lennon and Paul McCartney's publishing. So it's to your point, there are multiple masters. And you got to make sure that you're on top of A, your master, but B, if there are multiple masters, that you have done your job clearing the publishing side, because that's where I think a lot of people can get caught up too. So that's great. Let's see. Hugo, what should producers ask for when they make a record for an artist? Good question. I need that answer.
I think they should, first of all, you should have a producer agreement, right? So I think that it depends on the producer. It depends on the artist. So everything is a negotiation, really. There are some industry norms, but everything depends on where you are in your career. So if you are a brand new producer and the artist is hot and they're on fire, maybe you want to get a producer's agreement that they're paying you royalties based on the master on the back end. And you're not taking any money up front because you don't maybe have the credits yet. If the artist is signed by a label, then you definitely want to work with them because the label's going to put the marketing and promo money behind them. if you're a producer that's had some success, maybe had a placement, maybe had a hit record, then you're going to be looking for money up front and you're going to look for points on the back. But the only way that happens is if you have a producer's agreement. Because if you don't have a producer's agreement, well, there is a thing called an oral contract, but nobody can prove what that oral agreement was. So you're really hurting yourself. So I think producers need a variety of contracts to have in their kind of wheelhouse so that they can use them depending upon the situation.
I love that. And then earlier
And
you
a
said,
split sheet.
I
And
was
a
just
split
about to
sheet.
say,
And
you
a split
said
sheet.
the producer, I guess, could ask for technically 50% of the PA side. Is that still the standard, or is that a standard that you would suggest you start at with as a producer?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's crazy because I've seen some really great songwriters who maybe have 3 people working collectively to come up with the melody and the lyrics, and they're splitting 50% and the producer's getting 50%. I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you how the game is played, right? So I don't know that that's always fair, but, you know, it's hard, in my opinion, to, well, it depends. It's hard to come up with a melody. It's hard to come up with lyrics. Let me say it this way, that can be used in a song without the music first, because it's got to sit in the music appropriately. Yes, you could come up with a melody and lyrics and then get somebody to produce underneath it. But in today's market, most people are working from the music and then going on top of the music with the melody and the lyrics, not coming up with the melody and the lyrics and then asking somebody to produce underneath it. So I think that's the way songwriting originally began, though. People would come up with melodies, then they would create a production, and then they would put lyrics to it, right? That's what they do in Nashville in these camps where they're songwriting. But today, people buy beats, people rip stuff from YouTube. By the way, if you rip a beat from YouTube, which has its own complications because you don't have the stems, if that song ever goes viral, you have no rights to it. So I don't know that it's the best idea. And I would say this is just Debbie Egel's opinion. Okay, so take it for what it's worth. If you're just starting out, maybe something like BeatStars is okay to play around with the music and grab the beats. But if you're serious and you have, messed with a couple of beats and BeatStars and kind of got like a flavor for where you want to go with your music, you need to find a producer, because in BeatStars, you don't own the rights to that music either. And you're stuck on this standard contract that you click the box that you never read. Trust me, I know that. And if that song goes viral, again, you might have some issues with the song depending upon what that form contract said that you never read. So it's like you're licensing it. And even if you buy an exclusive beat from BeatStars, let me be very clear on this. If they've sold that beat previously, that song is out there. So maybe you come up with a really great version of that song with that beat, but now there's 10 other versions out there and they're all crap, but yours is really good. And now a record company is looking at you because that song's great. Well, guess what? Those 10 versions, that guy who sold it to you can't pull those down because he leased it. He's legally bound to let their leases run. And the only way the record company might get involved is now they got to pay those 10 people to get that record down. And they don't really want to incur all these additional expenses right out of the gate for somebody who's unknown. So try to find a producer, If you're a producer and you're in here, link up with the artist because you guys need each other.
That is great advice. These questions are running in, so I'm going to try to go. Let's see. We have quick question. Can you run through all the companies that you should be registered with to collect all royalties? You said PRO, Song Trust, MLC. What am I missing?
Okay, so first you have to copyright the song, right? Well, okay, that's debatable. Do you really have to copyright it? No, you don't. Once you put it out in the public, once you put it through a distributor, it's tentatively got a common law copyright, right? However, okay, so the copyright is one, right? There's a PA copyright and a sound recording copyright, which is the master recording. The problem with the music business also is they use these words interchangeably. So you read one thing, it says sound recording, you read something else, it says master recording, and you're like, okay, what are they talking about? The sound recording and the master recording, the same exact thing. People use different words, it's the same exact thing. So the sound recording copyright and the performance arts copyright, that's the writers. The sound recording is who owns the master. That's two things. Well, I'll go back to that in the end. Then you got to register it with the PRO, which would either be BMI or ASCAP for most independent artists. You can only belong to one PRO, can't belong to two. Then the MLC, Master Licensing Collective. And I would strongly recommend that you think about Song Trust. I know that, and Tune Registry, right? That's the other company. I personally work with Song Trust. I don't get a fee for doing referrals, but Song Trust collects all the publishing royalties, and they collect neighboring rights. Neighboring rights is money that comes from all the other countries besides the US. No individual can personally register in every country. Even me, I'm a little bit smart. I wouldn't even attempt to do that. My song catalog is in Song Trust. So Song Trust is like the MLC on steroids, right? So you pay $100 to join Song Trust. They take 15% of your royalties, but they're collecting all around the globe. Nobody's got time to do it. Nobody's got the will to do it. Nobody's going to sign up in every country. So I strongly suggest that you think about that. Maybe you don't need to do it today, but Song Trust or Tune Registry, and I don't know much about Tune Registry, except that they do a similar thing to Song Trust. That's something that you want to consider. But if you're not ready to do that, then you should definitely do the MLC. And the other one is Sound Exchange. MLC and Sound Exchange are free. Song Trust costs $100, but it's a one-time fee, and they take 15%, but they collect globally. Copyrights, I'm going to go back to okay, let me just get to the BMI or the ASCAP, whichever you decide you want to go with. Okay, I know most people on here will not really do this, so let me be very simple and very clear. When you join BMI or ASCAP, you have to open a writer's account. Everybody does that. Everybody who writes music does that. What nobody does is open a publishing account. You say, oh, I'm not a publisher. Okay, maybe you think you're not a publisher. But if you don't have a publishing deal, which most people don't, you are your own publisher. And if you don't open a publishing account in the PRO, you're only getting half the money. And that other half is going to go into the black box and eventually be dispersed to people who are already rich. So you have to open up a publishing account. Back to copyright. When you when you distribute the song, you have a copyright because it's out in the world, right? But if you want to, okay, so now this is how it always happens. You put a song out, and maybe a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, one of your fans will say, hey, I don't know, Little Baby did a song, and it's actually your song. Because the artists never know this. It's always their fans that find it. And then you, as the artist, will go listen to the song, and you'll be like, damn, that's my song, right? And now you want to sue him for infringement, because if you are the writer and you have come up with that creation, that is your intellectual property, right? And nobody's allowed to steal that, basically. And if they do, you can bring a case of infringement against them. But at that point, you have to copyright the song with the Copyright Office. And if you don't, you can do that 2 years later. You have to do it within, I think, or I don't know the number. I want to say there's a time frame. I have to look it up. I don't remember it off the top of my head right now. You have let's say 6 months. Don't quote me on the 6 months, because I don't know if that's accurate. You have 6 months to file an infringement claim. but you have to have your copyright. So you can get it done. You can expedite the copyright. It costs $800. It's not cheap, but you can expedite it. Or, so that's one thing. The other thing is you lose certain benefits if you don't copyright it right from the beginning within the first 3 months. Let's say if you did it within the first 3 months and somebody infringed down the line, you sue and you win, they would have to pay your attorney's fees. Like there's certain caveats to get you to go to the copyright office and copyright it right in the beginning. If you are a producer or you're a songwriter who works with only one producer, for argument's sake, you can do up to 10 songs on one copyright, but it has to be the same people. So if me and Udo did a song and me and Mickey did a song, that would be 2 separate copyrights. But if I did 10 songs with Mickey, I can do them all in one copyright form for all 10 songs. So, and if you're a producer, I'm going to say this, and you're sending beats out, well, you probably should copyright 10 beats at a time always, because when you're sending your beats out, there's a million people out here who know how to recreate that beat. So they can easily steal your music. So producers probably need to worry about it even more than artists.
All right.
So did I get them all? Copyrights?
I did. I think you did. So we got
Sound
copyrights,
Exchange,
PRO,
MLC.
MLC, and Song Trust.
Yeah, well, Song Trust would replace MLC, but yes.
Okay. All right. Great. Someone asked for your website. I posted it in the chat, emusicentertainment.com.
No, .net.
.net? Okay.
They're both
.net.
mine, but they're two different things. .net
Okay.
is the educational platform. And trust me, if you go watch my YouTube videos, they come out every 2 weeks, and sign up for my email list. I send them out all the time. Every email has the YouTube videos, and they're all educational. So.
Okay. All right. I got a bunch of questions. I'm gonna go back and forth in the Q&A in the chat. So next Q&A is what is the process when it comes to clearing a sample?
Cool.
This is from Marcus.
Okay. So if you have a sample in a song, then you probably took their music, or you could have taken their music. It depends. You could have taken their music, melody, and lyrics. It depends what part of the sample. It could be just the music, could be the music, melody, and lyrics. You have to find out who now owns that, because catalogs get sold and resold. So let's say, I don't know, we'll use somebody like Mariah Carey. Let's say she was originally signed to Sony, then Sony sold that part of the catalog to Warner. So it doesn't even matter where it started, it's where it ended, right? You have to go to them. You have to have your song done, and it has to be mixed and mastered. And then you have to request permission from them to use it, and they have to say yes or no. They're going to tell you how much they want, right? And then they're also going to tell you how much of the song they want to own. Now, if, let's say, you recreate the music, but it's the same music, but you recreate it, right? So let's say it's a hook and it's very popular and you recreated the hook, then you only have to get the publishing cleared. You don't have to get the publishing and the master rights. If you use a voice and a melody, then you have to get the master rights side cleared too. So it's better to redo it so that you only have to clear one hurdle. But this is what I tell my clients. There's a person named Danny Zook from Alien. That's the name of his company. And Deborah Gardner. She has another company, and they are the best at clearing records quickly, and you have to pay them a fee. But, you know, if you got a song and it's starting to percolate, like I have a client right now who's got a song on the radio, and it's not cleared yet. It's not cleared yet, right? But she didn't register the song anywhere, so she's not collecting the monies on it because she didn't clear it. And now they're trying to get the clearance. So you can't collect money on a song that basically you took from somebody else because it's their intellectual property. You can't benefit from it. And they can still pull that song off the radio, trust me. But we're trying to not red flag it in hopes that it will have enough popularity that they'll be willing to clear it. Another thing is, depending upon who you are and what's your marketing package and who you're signed to also makes a determination in whether or not they want to clear it. Because if you have no money, no marketing plan, nobody behind you, and it was very, very popular, they're probably not going to let you use it. So, I mean, if you use it and it goes viral, what they're going to do is if they don't like it, they're going to stop it. They're going to give you a cease and desist letter. You're going to have to pull it down. But the truth is, our minds hold music very, very well in our memory. So when you use something from somebody else that was very popular, you like the song better because somehow it interpolates in your brain as something you already knew and you like it more. So there's a benefit to using samples, but you just got to understand what you're getting involved with.
That's it. You guys know I'm a sample producer. The beats that I shared in the community, I now use Tracklib, which I love because Tracklib clears both the master and the publishing for you.
I was just gonna say that.
And they don't pay me for this, so you guys can go sign up for Tracklib if you're a producer or if you're an artist and you're just looking for a sound to be recreated. I love it because they clear the master and the publishing, and then they have basically tiers. So if it's a A-level license, it's $1,500 to clear it. And if it's a C-level license, it's like $150 to clear it. But you clear the master and the publishing. And then they have basically terms like whatever percentage that you have to give up on the publishing side and what percentage you have to give up from your streaming or the master side. So Tracklib has been a godsend for me because I was definitely one of those producers that was sampling my favorite old records and then just praying I wouldn't get caught. I've also worked with DMG to clear records in the past. But like Deb said, they charge you up front and they want the finished record before they even go ask anybody for permission. So you basically have to pay for the studio time, pay for the mixing and mastering. You need all the lyrics, you need all the split sheets, everything's got to be done. And then you're at the mercy of both the master and the publishing. And what we've had happen is we've gone to clear a record, they've gotten back, we want $5,000 and 10% from the master side, but then the publishing never responds. And then when that happens, you're like stuck because you've got half the record cleared and nothing to do. So I try to stay away from sampling popular records now, and I stick with Tracklib. Or if I do a popular record, I tell the artist we're probably not putting this out on Spotify. Yeah. All right, let's see. You already answered this. Is there an easy way to copyright multiple tracks? You said 10 songs at a time. What's your legal advice for an individual that is a producer owning all stems, a singer-songwriter with a library of 2,000 songs? What's your advice for next steps? I think they're talking about copywriting. So if you got a bunch of records that you produced and I guess you're getting ready to get out there, what advice do you give someone with 2,000 ideas?
If I had 2,000 songs, I'd be looking for a publishing deal, honestly, and I would be looking for some library or some agent who wants to use them for sync placement. That's a big catalog, and people are buying catalogs out there. So I would definitely be looking for one of those two kind of deals because you have a lot of music.
That's true. I agree. All right. Che says, so in theory, I could re-record / reproduce my own song and release that version instead of the original one that someone else partially owns with me in reference to the master ownership.
It depends, because if you're a producer and I'm doing producer agreements for you, we're going to have some stipulation in there about what is the time frame before the person who purchased the song can rewrite it, right? Because let's say, like I worked with High Five, right? So they had the Kissing Game, just use that for an example. So the Kissing Game was multi-platinum 3 times, right? So if I was the producer and the producer on that was Teddy Riley, and I didn't have that clause in there, just say for argument's sake, and the song's getting really popular, and now they worked with R. Kelly also, and R. Kelly says, oh, I'll reproduce it, and you can put the lyrics back on top of that, then Teddy Riley would have lost out on all his royalties. So producers have to protect themselves, and I guess if you're the record label, you I'll probably, look, I write contracts for both sides of the fence. So if I'm writing for the record label or the artist, I write it one way. If I'm writing it for the producer, I write it a whole nother way. Because depending upon who your client is who you want to protect. So if I'm writing for the artist, I'm not putting that clause in there. And if you don't know that clause benefits you and you don't tell me, you or your attorney don't say, well, I want this in there, then that's good for my artist, right? Because then they could re-record it like Taylor Swift did, right? With her catalog. Right?
Yep.
And that's the perfect example. He wouldn't sell her the masters and she re-recorded all of them. But those songs were out a long time ago. So even if there was a clause, they don't hold the song in perpetuity. If you see in any contract that's ever given you that word perpetuity, make sure you call me right away because you're about to really enter into a deal you should never enter into, because perpetuity means forever and always, as long as man exists, and you don't want to sign anything away for perpetuity.
There y'all go. All right, let me see. I'm gonna go back on this side. Do I need a business to open up a publishing account?
No, you don't. But this is the only thing I'm going to say. You don't need to. You can open a publisher's account. If your name is Debbie Egel, you could be Debbie Egel Publishing, right? But Debbie Egel has a couple of things, a bank account, a car, a house. So Debbie Egel don't want to get sued and lose my car, my bank account, and my house. So I'm going to open up an LLC so that they can only get what's in the LLC, which is my company, and not touch me personally. So yes, you can. But if you have assets, you might want to protect them by building another layer and opening an LLC. If it's a DBA, they can still get you. And they can even get you if it's an LLC, if you don't do the right things. There's certain thing that's determined to be malfeasance. And if anybody needs an LLC, call me and I'll explain that to you because that'll take too much time. But yes, that you can. But if you want to protect your assets, you create a company and put it under the company name.
Okay, that helps you, Brian. All right, Isaiah says, what if you pull samples from sites like Looperman or Splice? Do you still have rights? So if you're making beats from loops or loop packs.
I don't know about either one of those. So I don't know if you purchase that and they have in. So when you go to Splice, they must have some agreement that you check the box, right? You know, when you go on these different sites and it says, I have read and understand, and you check the box and then you say continue, and it's like all this little print. In that little print, it would tell you whether or not you could use it or be sued or what they get the money for it or what it means. So I don't really know because I'm not a producer and I don't use those sites, but that's where the answer is.
Got you. I'll look into that for you guys, but I know I got records out there with Splice, so hopefully we're good. I know that royalty free is what they call them, but even with that, like Deb said, there might be a loophole in there where they can come back. So we'll look into that, but hopefully it's not anything crazy because I definitely have Splice packs all over my tracks.
Because like sometimes when you buy all those beat packs, they have an agreement, but if the song hits and it makes money, the money goes to them, not you. So you got to be careful when you check those boxes.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. What are the first three most important questions I should ask an entertainment lawyer before signing a record contract with a major label?
What are the three? Are you interviewing the attorney? Or are you trying to find out about the record deal? I'm not sure what the question is asking.
Jay, put your answer in. I'll say this, how I've always approached every contract I've gone through, is I will take the actual agreement that we receive or that's drafted, and I'll ask the lawyer to go step by step, number by number, and I'll say, explain this to me like I'm a fifth grader. And my lawyers used to laugh at me, but they found that like, a lot of times I just needed them to explain like, all right, this is section 1.2 and it's got all these fancy words, but what is it saying? And then they usually break it down into a sentence that I'd be like, oh, okay, I want that. Or no, I don't want that. And they'd go back and do their lawyer jargon. But I think sometimes when I see people get these these contracts, and their lawyers give them kind of, like you said, what are 3 things I should answer, and they answer the 3 things, but that 5th thing might be the most important thing that you're not thinking about. So my advice is, if you're signing with a label, go through every section of that contract, because if you don't, that they usually embed it deep. The thing that gets you is not going to be on the first page. That thing is going to be on like the 5th or 6th page, and perpetuity is going to be in there somewhere. And it's usually going to be something around the name or something around who owns the visuals. Like, there's something in one of those clauses that, if you're not careful, will get you.
And I think that the reality is there's different ways to write contracts, right? So one way to write a contract is you say, okay, the term of the record deal is 3 albums, right? First album is 12 songs, and then we have the right for 2 options. See paragraph 4B. And even me as an attorney, when I have contracts that I'm reviewing for clients, even for me, I'm like, oh God, I hate these contracts, because now you have to read everything that's in 1, and then you have to go to 4B and read that and parse the 2 things together to really find out what the intent is. And very much like you had just said, which is fascinating to me, what I do when I get a contract from somebody is I do what you say, but I do it even better. I actually take the contract, and then I have track changes with comments, and I put what each paragraph means in a sentence or 2 in the comments and send it back to the client. Why do I do that? I do that because A, I want you as my client to learn. You may not want to learn, but an educated consumer is the best customer, right? Because then as you move through the music business, you understand more and you know what to ask for. Second of all, it's in writing. You can't say I didn't tell you, because I'll pull the contract back up and say, look, I sent it to you in this email. Here it is. Now, I will tell you, major contracts are 100 pages. They're no joke, those contracts, right? But the reality is that no artist, no producer should sign a contract without having an attorney review it, because you really don't know what you're signing. And they're trying to sell you, or they're trying to buy you. It's both, right? They're trying to get you to commit to them. And it's a business, so they're going to do what's in their best interest. And once you sign a contract that is drafted by an attorney, because I've seen some contracts out here that are probably pieced together on the internet by somebody who doesn't want to pay an attorney. But once a contract is really done by an attorney and you sign it, it is almost impossible to get out of, because in order for you to get out of it, it would cost you so much time and money that you're better off just running the contract out. But you know what? The problem with the music business is this is a business for young people, and time is of the essence. You can't get stuck in a contract for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, and it's the wrong contract for you. And, look, even with the best attorney, signing a deal is like getting married without dating, because you don't 100% know how it's going to turn out. But you got to go with the odds in your favor, right? And you got to go with, okay, if this don't work, here's my exit strategy. As sad as that is, it's the truth, because nobody here is going to meet somebody in the street, spend 1 or 2 days with them and marry them, right? They're going to want to date, get engaged, spend time to get to know them. That's not how music deals are done, right? So you really do need an attorney. And how do you interview an attorney? You got to have an attorney that you feel you can talk to. You can have a really smart attorney who just kind of blows you off, and I think you can get a sense of who the person is the minute you talk to them, right? And if they don't want to talk to you, or if they, I guess there's also other things. Are they charging you by the hour? Are they on retainer? Are they giving you a flat fee? There's so many things you have to think about. Because you need somebody you can talk to. Honestly, that's what I think. That's what I want in a doctor, in an attorney, in a real estate agent. I want somebody who is actually talking to me and listening to me.
I love it. And I'll say this, because we've helped, like Davina just put in the chat, we've helped dozens of artists at this point with both recording, publishing, agent contracts. You get one shot to get your terms right, and that's before you sign. And usually the labels are as lazy as the artist is, meaning they don't want to go back and forth 100 times. So make sure you read it. And then I love what you said about your exit strategy. For me, it's less about the initial terms, because it is like dating in the beginning and everyone's excited with that first project, the first money, the first song. But what I like to ask is, what happens if this doesn't work out, right? And so as an artist, as a songwriter, the things you want to make sure you get clear is, who gets to make the decisions if things aren't going well? And those decisions could be tied to when songs are released. Because again, if you give me a 3-album deal, but you get to determine when I put the music out, that's how I get tracked. So just changing one part of the contract could be, all right, I'll do the 3-album deal, but I always get to say when I put the music out. That way, worst case, if I'm miserable, I'm just going to put out 2 albums back to back and get out this deal. 2, always put a clause in that allows you the first rights to buy your music back. And this one we didn't start doing until later in our career, but I found that labels would usually balk at it, and then we'd say, no, like, obviously it's yours and we'll give you the master, but in these circumstances, we want the first right. So A, if you're going to sell the catalog to somebody else, we have to get the first right to match. Or B, if we leave the contract and you've recouped your money, we get a chance to buy it at the market value. And then most times labels will be like, all right, just add that clause, because they're not thinking that's going to happen. But once you put that in before you sign your contract, now you've got your out. Okay, worst case, I'm unhappy. I can put out these records and get out my deal. And that's happened many times with many artists in the past over the last 50 years. But 2, most importantly, I have a path to buy my masters back. And sometimes if you've made enough noise and got enough buzz and got a new situation, you can get the new label to go get your old masters for you. And you can say, hey, I want to come with you and I'm happy and I'd love to join your team. But for that to happen, I need you to give me an advance that allows me to buy back my masters, and I'll co-own those masters with you moving forward. So you can get very creative before when everybody's excited. But if you are super excited at that advance or whatever they're offering you, and you sign before having any of these conversations or making any of these adjustments, or at least asking through your lawyer, I've never seen a label come back and change their mind after the fact. That I can tell you.
And I think the other thing is, you got to remember something. I think there's nothing wrong with signing to a major. There's absolutely nothing. I'm all for it for people. I think you have to understand what it is, right? So what do you want when you get a major deal? You want as little albums as possible, right? Because they want 7. So maybe you want 4 or 5, right? Because the reality is they are going to invest millions if you are good, and they are the bank, and you need that bank to blow up. Because so what? You stuck there for 5 years. If you're an A-lister now, the next deal, you're going to get what you want. But I will tell you this. I have seen people, and I have done major label deals, and people think I have arrived. So I'm going to tell you what I think about a major label deal for everybody who's on here. You just got put on the farm team for the Yankees. You ain't even sitting on the dugout. You ain't even getting out in the field. That's what getting signed to a major is, because now you're in with the people who have the potential to be A-listed. You got to prove yourself, and you got to work even harder than you worked to get there. And that's a fact if you want to make it, because people say, oh, I arrived, they buy the new car, they buy the gold teeth, they do all this stuff, and they take on an entourage, and they lose their deals because they basically get choked because they don't do the things they did before because they think they arrived. So you have to know what each deal is for, because I'm going to tell you something. This is not a game for the weak of heart. It is not. And it takes money to be in this game. Money, money, money. So every label deal, every distribution deal, independent label deal should be taken seriously, but it doesn't mean it's the right deal, right? If you get an independent label and it sounds good, well, how much do you know about the company, right? You got to figure these things out, because I agree, every independent artist needs help, but you have to be strategic in everything you're doing. You really do. And you have to take a deal that's good for you and make it better for you. Take lemons and turn it into lemonade, right? I just did a licensing deal with somebody a major licensing deal. And I find myself keep saying, like, this is a great next step for you because now you've got the money. Remember, it's a licensing deal. And we put a clause in there that after the EP, that if they have it within a certain amount of time, re-upped for the next LP, that even if she hasn't made the money, she can buy back by paying back the whatever they've laid out. So if somebody else is interested in her and they're not moving fast enough, she just gets that label, right? Like you said, to upfront the money to buy her out of a contract and she moves on. So there's ways to do it, but just doing it because somebody's there is not the right way to do it.
I love that. All right, Nola, I got you. And y'all, thank you for these questions. Y'all got questions today. What are some double English words we should look out for when looking at contracts with labels, artists, or producers? Very broad questions. So I'm guessing he's saying what are trap words that they should be aware of when signing contracts?
Okay, so if you're an artist or a producer, is the term running coterminous with another deal? That's a trap word. Perpetuity, that they own it in perpetuity. What are some of the other trap words? How long they're owning your masters for, right? Because a lot of contracts, you can get your masters back after X amount of years. So it's a very broad. I'm just trying to think of some things that come straight to my mind.
Exclusive, non-exclusive. That
Yes.
understanding that very simple word can be a game changer for you.
And yeah, if you're a producer, exclusive or non-exclusive is a big deal. Can you have, if you're the artist, what's the deal for having features? Can you do features for somebody else? What does it take to do that? Oh, I know. Who's got creative control? Another big one, right? Do you have creative control? Because they can turn you into something you will be unhappy being. And this is my best advice to all the artists. Be who you are. Be who you are. Don't imitate. Don't try to duplicate. Be who you are, right? And I had an artist. She was very, very talented. And she had the resting bitch face, right? And I would tell her, like, you have to be like a politician. You got to shake hands and kiss babies, right? You know what I learned? No. She had the resting bitch face. She couldn't make it because of that. And I should have just let her be that. I could have got out of that deal a lot faster, right? So I say that to you. If you are not personable and you really can't move from that space, it's hard to make it because an artist has to be entertaining, which means they have to be personable and engaging. So be who you are and figure it out. Don't let anybody change you because they can't change you.
I love it. All right, Kevin, sorry, I missed this before. Is a CLC admissible in court? I think he's talking about the copyright. If you just put the song out and you're leaning on that copyright versus the actual Library of Congress copyright.
No, if you can't go into court without a real copyright. So if somebody infringes, you have to immediately go file for your copyright. You have to do it.
Got it.
You can't, without the registration number, you can't go to court. And now the copyright office has a new thing called the Copyright Claims Board, right? And they just started hearing cases, which you copyright the song. I think it's I just looked at this the other day. I think you can get up to $30,000 on a copyright claim, but this is perfect for independent artists because copyright fights, like I think the Led Zeppelin fight for Stairway to Heaven went on for like 10 years, and these claims stay in court for years and years and years. You have to have a lot of money to do it. This is why they created the Copyright Claims Board. You can get up to $30,000 for a copyright claim, and you can get an attorney to do it. You can actually try to do it yourself. I don't know how successful you'll be, but you can file it. So look at that if you think somebody's stealing your thing. You still have to file a copyright though.
Perfect. All right. Brian asks, what are things I can do to completely protect my song from being taken from me? Example, someone sues me and asks for all my business assets. How can my art be kept by me and only by me?
Well, if you're a producer, they have like these different libraries that you can put the music that people can listen to, but they can't download it. So that's one way to put it out there. You send people a link, they can listen. If you are an artist, you can copyright your music. If they steal it, then you just got to fight them, because you have to have it out in the public world, right? You have to. I mean, listen, if you go into a library and you take a book and you copy the pages on a copy machine and share that with your friends, it's copyright infringement, believe it or not. Like, there's lots of ways that we take advantage of other people's property and we don't pay them, right? So it happens all the time. There's no way to completely protect yourself. Obviously, if somebody like Little Baby takes your song and he puts it out, the other thing I'm going to tell you is, until they make a lot of money, you don't need to do anything. Like, if you file a copyright claim too soon and they've made no money, then you can't really get damages, because you have to show how it damaged you and and if they've made no money, then it didn't really damage your success. So there's lots of little nuances. Don't be afraid. Copyright your music, put it out, and enjoy it. Somebody steals it, then seek the counsel of an attorney. That's all. But put your music out.
Yep. And Brian, if you talk about someone suing you, they can't take your music from you. So if you lose a lawsuit, your music's not like so let me say this. Your music is not like a car or a house if you get sued, where they can take the music from you. However, the royalties attached to the music might be what they can take. So, for example, R. Kelly got sued by his victims. He claimed that he didn't have any money. And the victim's lawyer said, well, you don't have any money, but your songs generate X millions of dollars every year. So now the courts have given the victims of R. Kelly the royalties moving forward from his music. So your assets, being the music itself, are protected. But again, if you did something and got sued and you didn't have any way to pay people, the royalties associated with that music might be up for grabs. And in that lawsuit, because they took him to criminal court, but in civil court, they took R. Kelly, his publisher, and his record label to court, and the victims won. So no one can take your art from you, but in the business world, they can always take your royalties. Or not always, but it's possible they can go after your royalties. Liesel asks, follow up on the question of remaking. If I remade my songs as live versions of each of my songs to separate myself from an old producer, I know I would own the new master of the live version, but does the producer still have to be credited in any way? I wrote all my lyrics and melodies except for the actual track and beat.
Yeah, I mean, if you're copying the exact track again, yes, you have to give him credit. Yep. Because he wrote the track.
There you go. All right, let's see. Virginia asks, can you repeat the website again on getting a song cleared? So where did you suggest they go to get songs cleared?
I said Deb Gardner, right?
Yeah.
Or Danny Zook for Alien. But I think the place you said was better, and you need to send that to me because I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, so DMG is who I use if it's a song that's out like on the radio, but Tracklib is who I use because they have a library of thousands of songs, and they're basically just going out and buying old catalogs, Deb, and they're buying both sides. So they're buying the master and the publishing, or they're doing licensing deals with those folks and just paying out a percentage and taking a flat rate. So DMG is Deb Gardner. They're good. They're not expensive, but again, the challenge is you still have to wait for whoever owns the master and the publishing to get back to you. And what we found is a lot of these old soulful records that we were sampling, that those record labels are now defunct and they've been bought out and bought out and bought out over and over again. The people who are in charge of those songs just don't care about them. So you can put out there, I'm trying to clear this record from 1974, and you just got to hope somebody gets back to you. But we'll send out, I'll put DMG because I think I have that in my favorites. I'll put that in the DMG clearances.
Man's copyright, somebody's asking about that in the chat. If that's mailing it to yourself, don't waste the stamp. It means nothing. Don't do it. It's not worth anything.
Yeah. Yeah, we had an issue with a copyright once, and I think they asked for a use case, and it had to be something that was public. And we found out that a live YouTube video worked. And it just so happened that the video was like 9 years old, and that was usable. So, and the video didn't have that many plays, but it showed the first use 9 years ago on a YouTube video that we uploaded the song. So, like, whether you release it through your TuneCore, your DistroKit, or you upload it on YouTube or SoundCloud, that date of upload is what counts. But to Deb's point, and I just learned this, I guess you have to go actually get it copyrighted anyways before you go to court if you're the one suing the other person.
Right.
Okay. Taylor says, thank you, Deb. This is truly invaluable information. So thank you, Deb. Definitely want to shout you out because, again, a lot of the folks in here are just starting out, and lawyers are expensive, and, you know, Google can be good, but Google can be your enemy. So I'm glad somebody who knows what they're talking about is answering. Poor man's copyright. Yep, answered that. He said, should we play I Believe I Can Fly? Yes. Technically, R. Kelly should be played because that's how his victims are getting paid. What would you say in terms of copywriting art related to your music? Is album covers, etc.? Would you recommend a federal trademark? Great question. Okay. Copywriting.
Copywriting is different than a trademark. So if you want to copyright it, you can copyright the cover. If it's a graphic that you created or it's a picture, you can copyright either one. Not necessarily needed, but you can. Trademark is something different. If you want to trademark your name as an artist, you want to trademark your logo. I just want to give a quick tutorial. I just did I just fixed 2 trademarks for 2 clients because they didn't understand. So when you make a trademark, like I'm going to trademark Poland Spring, right? So you can trademark a basic word mark, which means Poland Spring, those 2 words. Doesn't mean a font, doesn't mean a logo, just means those 2 words. And when you go to trademark it, I think it's up to like $350 now each time you go to trademark, right? It used to be $250. You have to trademark it in a category. So Poland Spring is going to trademark in a category that encompasses water, right? But Poland Spring probably has baseball caps and T-shirts and other things that they use as merchandise. They would have to put in a trademark for each one of those categories. One for hats, one for T-shirts, one for belts, whatever they're using. So each category is another trademark. You have to show proof of its use. You have to explain why you deserve it. You have to see if somebody else in the market has it. The best example I can give you is like, I trademarked, I had a record label at one time, was called BMW, was Bronx Most Wanted. That was the name of the record label. And we trademarked the logo and the name. And okay, we looked beforehand, nobody had it. And it went to the register because after it passes through the trademark attorney in the USPTO, which is the office, then they put it in a public register for, I don't know, I think 60 days. And if anybody sees it and has a problem with it, then they contact the attorney. Well, we did Bronx Most Wanted record label. And who do you think contacted? You wouldn't believe it. BMW. Because that was the logo. BMW, but around it said Bronx Most Wanted. And we did the trademark in the category of music. Okay, so BMW has trademarks in everything. Automotive, hats, belts, wallets, you name it, clothes. They've got the trademark in a million different categories, but nothing in music. And they were fighting me. They hired a white shoe law firm in the city that had like 30 friggin' attorneys. And it was me fighting back with them. And I was really, I was committed to the good fight because I was like, but they can't own the market. This has nothing to do with them. But their argument was they have spent so much money on this name that's so well recognized, like Bronx Most Wanted. I mean, that doesn't have maybe the most positive connotation. So I settled with them and we changed it to BXMW, Bronx Most Wanted. But they weren't even in the same category. So getting a trademark is not as simple as people sometimes think. And you have to be very selective about what category you're doing it in. If you want to do your stage name, that's one category. If you want to do, like, there's different categories. So just to understand that, and it's no guarantee, even if there's nobody in the market who has it, if there's something very similar, they could argue against you. So, and then when you get a trademark, at the 5-year mark, at the 5 years, after you've been approved and it's yours, you have to pay a certain fee and show that you're using it. And then at 10 years, you have to do it. And then every 10 years, if you miss the deadline and you don't do what they ask, you lose your trademark. And recently that happened with the girl that I'm working with. She lost her trademark because of an attorney's malfeasance. And now I'm trying, and she's been using it since 2013. And somebody came along and created another trademark very similar to us, not exactly the same. And they're denying her for that reason. So I just wrote the appeal and the rebuttal. We'll find out if she gets it back or not, but I'm not sure. So you have to really stay on top of it. But if it's your stage name, it's probably worth trademarking. I don't know about anything else, but your stage name, that's important.
Kathy says the devil is a lie. Brian said, I appreciate that. All right, let's see. Upcase said, what if I signed a split sheet during a session and then never saw that sheet again? That's a great question because that's a common thing.
Well, you can take a picture with your phone. Everybody's got a phone. No excuses.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a phone. And I know you got your phone in the studio because you're reading the lyrics from the phone. So after everybody signs it, take a copy of it. Take a picture of it.
So I'll say this now, just so y'all know, we are actually building a split sheet tool. I just got the mock-ups yesterday or today. The tool will be out in beta this summer. If you're in a 24/7 community and you're in a tech group, you'll be able to test it out sooner. But it's a free tool. I want to make it so that artists can quickly go to mysplitsheet.com. They can sign it, they can send it, they can verify it. Everybody can see in real time what's happening. And that's going to link to the catalog manager. So when the song is released, you get notified. Because it should be something simple. And we're trying to educate not just the artists, but I think really the engineers and the producers, because they're the people who are always going to be around making the records, to make that part of to make it less taboo. Right now, I feel like there's a taboo with split sheets. And anytime someone brings up business in a session, it kills the vibe. And we're trying to educate folks to be like, nah, just pull up this joint real quick, put everybody's information in before you even start making a record. And then before you leave, just kind of put in some notes. So even if you don't land on percentages, you should be able to say, yo, I worked on the hook, or I did a verse, or I did the arrangement. And then that at least is something that's trackable, so that you never say, yo, I signed a split sheet and never saw it again. If it's an app and it's in your phone, you should be able to open it up and say, hey, on this date, we filled the split sheet out, but you never followed up with me. So that tool will be up and out this summer. If Terry's in the room, hopefully she gets the tech committee previews of that, and you guys will be a part of the reason we get that tool out.
I just want to say, Aliza, you can email me. I just put my email in the chat box. I try to be really fair with independent artists, and I try to just work with what I can with them, depending upon what services they need. I don't really, I don't know, I have a lot of independent artists. That's who I literally cater to, is the independent artists and the independent labels. So I understand where you're at. I have a couple of independent artists that I work with on my, through my distribution. So just email me if you have an issue and we'll figure it out.
Thank you. And Lay, just be prepared before, when you're dealing with any professional you're engaging. So, have your questions ready, have your needs and wants ready, so that you're not wasting time saying, hey, I just want to see what I don't know, because Deb is a busy lady. And
you can trademark your government name for a stage name. I saw that roll by before.
I think Kanye West has trademarked. So yeah. Let's see. Thoughts on trademarking album names.
I just want to say this about the split sheet that I see in there. Listen, this is all you got to do. I know people get tricky about the splits and the this and that, but this is a business, right? So if you go buy a car, right, you're not going to just go take the car and sign the loan paper without asking how much they're selling it for, right? This is a business. What you got to say is, hey, I want to put this record out. I hope it goes, viral and we make lots of money. And I want to make sure everybody here who is entitled to get paid gets paid. If you don't sign the split sheet, you can't get paid. Real simple, because that's a fact. If, in fact, you don't have a split sheet and you register that song and the money's rolling in, and one person who disagrees with what the splits are because they didn't sign the split sheet, they can shut down your royalties. And you know what? The company will tell you, whether it's ASCAP or whether it's Spotify, any of them, they'll say, we're a third party. We don't get involved. Go to court. So you're protecting yourself, but you're protecting them also. And they need to understand that, because they may also be people who don't understand the business, right? So you got to tell them, without a split sheet, we may not be able to get our royalties. I'm trying to protect everybody here.
I love it.
And that's a good vibe.
It should be.
And if you got a manager, let the manager do it.
It's usually where I come in. What are your thoughts on trademarking an album name?
Nah, I wouldn't do that.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't do that, because that comes and goes. I would trademark my stage name. I would trademark my company name, my band name, my business name. I wouldn't trademark an album.
Good. All right. Brian says, is a website necessary with all the platforms out now? If you sell merchandise, do I need a use tax license? In Arizona, we have what's called a transaction privilege tax license that you must have when selling. Not sure what other states have. Would you need something like this when selling your non-physical art music to businesses?
Well, I think everybody needs a website, my personal opinion. I know that sounds like kind of old and farty because people are on TikTok and Instagram, but your website's the only place that you can collect emails. And if you have fans, you want to alert your fans to new merchandise, to tours, to new records. And you know what? Facebook changes their algorithms. Instagram changes their algorithms. TikTok changes their algorithms. You can't even get to the people that are following you unless they trigger the algorithm. So yeah, you need a website. If you're selling merchandise, you need some mechanism built into the website for sales tax, because when you're sending it out to different states, you're supposed to be charging them sales tax that's appropriate for that state. And you have to pay the sales tax to these different states. So usually these systems, they have a way to trigger it and it's built in. But yes, you do need that. And in New York, you have like a sales tax license that you get, but it's like renewable every 2 years. It's like de minimis. It's like $50. But again, you got to pay the sales tax, and you got to pay that. Like, I think in New York, it's like maybe quarterly. And if you miss the quarterly date, then they fine you $50. So, like there's all these nuances that you don't want to be bleeding money. So you got to make sure what you take on, you have the ability to manage, because you don't want to be the one person you don't want to mess with is the IRS, because they will come get you.
I love it. I think that's it for the questions. If y'all have any more, throw them in there. But Deb, thank you again for this. Your email is in there, so everybody please copy and paste that email and reach out directly, because having a lawyer on your side is key. And if you guys are following the steps and getting opportunities, having a lawyer to review your stuff is I don't even move without it now, because I've seen what happens when we try to cut corners and operate without a lawyer. At least looking at an agreement or being able to ask, what does this mean? Once you sign, that's it. So having Deb or access to a lawyer like Deb is crucial. I love Deb because she tells it like it is. If you check out her YouTube videos and her channel, she's very direct in how she communicates about the business of music, and I appreciate that directness.
Yes, I am definitely right in your face. Tell it like it is. I'm maybe not diplomatic, but if you know what? Honesty is priceless, and I am honest. I'm not mean, but I am honest. So, like, I don't want to waste anybody's time. One of the people I work with, he sent me a song just a short time ago, and I listened to it, and he's like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "It's boring. I like the production. I like this, and these are the three things I don't like." And he was like, "Wow." And I was like, "Okay, so do you want me to tell you it's great and then you put it out and you get no traction? Because you're wasting my time then. Why am I listening to it? If you don't want real feedback, you take my feedback for what it's worth. If you don't believe it, okay, it is what it is. You're not going to live or die based on my word, but I'm going to tell people how I really feel. And it's not because I think I'm greater than, it's because I really want to give you good feedback, because this industry people are full of shit. Excuse my language. There are so many people out here that are sharks that tell you what you want to hear, take your money, never deliver, ghost you, promise you things that you didn't even ask for and never deliver. That I don't want to be any of those people. So at least everybody's always going to say, Debbie's the real deal. You don't have to love me, but I'm definitely the real deal. That's for sure. So, I think that after being in this business for so long, if you stick around for a while, you're going to love people like me or you do, because we're telling the real story. Because that, my friends, is hard to find. And when you find it and you found it in him, then you stick with it, because it's hard to come by out here. Really. A lot of people are in this. I don't know. This is the most powerful lesson I learned in this business. When you're in survival mode, you will do whatever you have to do, and you don't care who you hurt. And a lot of people in this industry operate from survival mode. And yeah, listen, if you got to survive, you're going to do whatever you got to do. But you really can hurt people who are really close to you and relying on you and helpful to you. So when you find good people, keep them close. That's all I'm going to say on that note.
I think we're going to end on that. Liesl said, "I need you." So I'm sure Liesl's going to hit you. She said, "I need you, Deb." Shay said, "This is my favorite webinar so far." That's big, because we've done quite a few. I appreciate your honesty, Deb. This has been amazing. So I feel like you've made some fans. Guys, anyone we bring to these webinars, they are for you guys. And I'm so appreciative of your time, Deb. I love the honesty. I love the answers. Guys,
and
please.
I'll even say to you, if they come back to you and they want a segment on one thing, like how do you register songs, I can whiteboard it, and anything that they need, you tell me. I'm more than happy to come back.
We're gonna hold you to that. I appreciate it. We got a group of hungry artists who are doing the work, and I love it because they take the knowledge from here and then I see them apply it. So I'm sure I'll be getting a bunch of split sheets and all that good stuff. But yeah, thank you everybody for attending. Thank you, Deb, again.
Thank you.
You guys go follow Deb. Let me grab your Instagram real quick and post it so that everybody can go follow you.
ENT.
Yep. You guys.
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff on Instagram too. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of information about the music business on Instagram.
So you guys, there's a link. Y'all go follow Deb. Show her some love. She's always dropping jewels. Shoot her a DM. That's how I got to Deb. I shot a DM and she hit me right back, and I appreciated that. I'll throw the links in the community too, Lay. Thank you for that. I'll throw them in the general chat. And then yeah, we'll have Deb back. This is not the end of it. And then go to the website, get the book. Again, Deb's here. You guys aren't paying for this. So for me, if y'all found any of this valuable, then go support Deb and go cop the book and use it. I know we've talked about lists. We've talked about checklists.
Just say one thing? Mm-hmm. I just did 2 videos. One video on the PA copyright. If you're a producer, you better go get that one. And if you're an artist, on the master copyright. I bundled them both for $75. There's like 8 modules, but I'm going to tell you something. They are actually entertaining. You will not be bored. It's the first time I did it this way, but I promise you, you will be entertained and you will watch them. And if you don't like them, you can get your money back. How's that? That's how simple I'm going to make it, because it will be a really good investment for you to understand your copyrights, which is truly where all the royalties flow from. And you really need to understand them, because in order to be and progress in this business, you have to give parts of this away. You have to when you sign deals, but you have to understand what they are before you give them away, right? Because you're taking a money deal in, and they're taking part of your intellectual property. But if you understand it, you're not going to be like, oh, they raped me. No, they gave you $50,000, $75,000, and this is what you traded to get that money for your living, and they gave you marketing and promo money. So you need to understand it. So it's definitely there. I have to send you the links. I don't know that they can find it easily. So I'll send you the links to the landing pages. And yeah, you guys should go maybe take that time to invest in that. And, you know, you get it for a year so you can rewatch it a million times. It's not like one and done. And if I put something new into it, you get it. So maybe that would be a really good investment for you guys.
Oh, yeah,
I'm going to I will send Udo the link, and then he can send it out to y'all. Okay.
Yep. I'll throw it in the Geneva. We'll put it in the recap email with you guys. And then this obviously is on demand. So I think Casey and team will have it out in about 3 weeks. You can watch this again. We'll get you guys all of Deb's info. I threw it in the community already, Lay. So thank you for that. And then before we go, I just want to show you guys so y'all understand why we did this first. This is our catalog manager tool. You guys can see my screen. Y'all will see that, you know, everything that's in here is basically our splits. So who collaborated, what they did, the lyrics are here, the release information is here, but also the publishing and the master information is here. And if you guys have worked with me, y'all know that I give up equal shares on both the master and the publishing, which is not common, but I've been doing that for like 15 years now because of Paul Miner. Because I believe if you contribute to one of our records, you should get paid whenever the song makes money. So when I tell you guys we built these tools and we're building more and more tools for you guys, please go check out My 24/7 Artist. Sign up. You don't have to put a credit card in. You can use it. This is our catalog manager tool. And again, the whole purpose of this for me was I wanted a place where all of the information for a song could live in one place, and I could share it with my team. I could share it with my collaborators. I could share it with the music licensing and sync folk, and anybody who needed anything related to a song could plug into one place and get that info. So again, y'all, like the reason we're doing this is for you guys, to empower you guys, connect with Deb, reach out. You know, I take y'all serious when y'all do that. So please, 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 please follow Deb on Instagram, shoot her a DM, shoot her an email, get the book. And then if y'all want her to come back, which I know you do, and teach something very specific, y'all let me know and we'll hopefully get on her schedule. Deb, thanks for doing this. I know we tried to do this like 2 months ago, so thank you for your patience. But that's it for me, y'all. I appreciate it. Awesome.
And keep on working hard, guys, and follow your dream, man. Follow your dream.
Absolutely. Thank y'all.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.